This is a reading from the 21st Arcanum of Meditations on the Tarot, the Fool. The fundamental thesis of scholasticism was that philosophy is the servant of theology, Philosopher, Ancilia, Theologia. Intelligence certainly cooperated, but it played only a subordinate role. Thus, scholasticism did not succeed in achieving the alchemical work of the fusion of spirituality and intellectuality, the work of the marriage of the sun and moon, the result of which is a third principle called the Philosopher's Stone in alchemy. The Philosopher's Stone of spiritual alchemy is described in the Emerald Table of Hermes Trismegistus as follows. The father thereof is the sun, the mother the moon. The wind carried it in its womb, the earth is the nurse thereof. It is the father of all works of wonder, Thelema, throughout the whole world. The power thereof is perfect, if it be cast onto earth. It will separate the element of earth from that of fire, the subtle from the gross, gently and with great sagacity. It doth ascend from earth to heaven. Again it doth descend to earth, and uniteth in itself the force from things superior and things inferior. This means to say that the process of induction, which ascends from earth to heaven, and that of deduction, which descends to earth, the process of prayer, which ascends from earth to heaven, and that of revelation, which descends to earth, that is, human endeavour and the action of grace from above, unite and become a complete circle which contracts and concentrates to become a point where the ascent and descent are simultaneous and coincide. And this point is the Philosopher's Stone, the principle of the identity of the human and divine, of humanism and prophetism, of intelligence and revelation, of intellectuality and spirituality. It is the solution of the problem posed by St. Paul, or rather the accomplishment of the task given by him when he wrote of the cross being folly to the Greeks and a stumbling block to the Jews, but which, to those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, is the power of God and the wisdom of God. Now, the historical evolutionary mission of Hermeticism is to advance the progress of the alchemical work engaged in developing the Philosopher's Stone, or the union of spirituality and intellectuality. It is called to be the crest of the wave of contemporary human effort, aspiring to the fusion of spirituality and intellectuality. This effort and aspiration is larger than the group of Hermeticists, properly said, who are dispersed in the world. There are probably more people who are not avowed Hermeticists and who are engaged in the endeavour aiming at the fusion of spirituality and intellectuality than there are Hermeticists, properly said. Neither Vladimir Soloviev, nor Nicolas Berdyaev, nor Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, nor Carl Gustav Jung, for example, were declared Hermeticists, but how much they have contributed to the progress of the work in question. Christian existentialism from Berdyaev, Christian gnosis from Soloviev, Christian evolutionism, Teilhard de Chardin, and depth psychology of revelation, Jung, are, in fact, as many inestimable contributions to the cause of the union of spirituality and intellectuality. Although they did not make Emeticism their calling, they served its cause and were inspired from the same sources from which Emeticism is inspired. Emeticism has, therefore, more than a few allies and collaborators beyond the ranks of its adherents. The spirit blows where it will, but the task of the Emetic tradition is to maintain, without pretension to a monopoly, God forbid, the ancient ideal of the thelema of the whole world, which ascends from earth to heaven, descends to earth, and united in itself the force from things superior and things inferior. Its task is that of guardian of the great spiritual work. To be a guardian signifies two things. Firstly, the study of and practical application of the heritage of the past, and secondly, continuous creative effort aiming to the advancement of the work. For the tradition lives only when it is deepened, elevated, and increased in size. Conservation alone does not suffice at all. It is only a corpse which lends itself to conservation by means of mummification. The great spiritual work, seen always on the historical plane, takes place under simultaneous action stemming from two contrasting sources, from above and from below, that is, under the action of continuous revelation and that of the effort of human consciousness. In other words, it is the product of the collaboration of revelation and humanism, or of avatars and Buddhas, to say it in terms of the Indo-Tibetan spiritual tradition. This latter awaits both a new wave of revelation, the culminating point of which will be the Kalki avatar, and the manifestation of a new Buddha, the Maitreya Buddha. At the same time, esoteric Islam, Batim, Shi'ism and Sufism awaits the coming, Perusia, of the 12th Imam, who at the end of our era will bring the full revelation of the esotericism of all divine revelation. Believing Jews await the coming of the Messiah. We need hardly mention, also, the widespread expectation of the second coming of Christ. Thus there is a climate of expectation in the world, expectation, sustained, contemplated and intensified through the course of the centuries. Without being nourished and directed from above, this energy of human expectation alone would have exhausted itself long ago. But it is not exhausted. Rather, on the contrary, it is growing. This is because it aspires to a reality and not an illusion. And this reality is the historical accomplishment of the great work of uniting spirituality and intellectuality, revelation and humanism, on the vast scale of the whole of mankind. Seen on the level of the history of the whole of mankind, this work presents itself as follows. We mentioned above the Oriental notions of avatars and imams on the one hand, and that of Buddhas on the other hand. Avatars and imams represent personalities who are culminating points of the revelation from above, whilst Buddhas, Gautama Buddha being only one in a series of Buddhas, represents the culminating points of certain epochs of human history, not of revelation from above, but rather of the awakening of human consciousness. The word Buddha signifies awakened, whilst that of avatar signifies descent. A descent, the birth of God in humanity, the Godhead manifesting itself in the human form and nature, this is the eternal avatar. Therefore, if avatars are descents of the divine, Buddhas are ascents of the human. They are culminating points of stages of humanism in the process of evolution. The difference between the revelatory ones and the awakened ones is analogous to that between saints and righteous men in the Judeo-Christian world. Here, saints correspond to avatars in that they represent the revelation of divine grace through them and in them, and righteous men correspond to Buddhas in that they bring to evidence the fruits of human endeavour. In Jesus Christ we have the perfect union of divine revelation and the most pure humanism, which means to say that not only avatars but also Buddhas of the past and of the future are summarised in Jesus Christ, being the Logos made flesh, and his humanity having realised the most complete awakening of all that which is of divine essence in human nature. For Jesus Christ is the revelation that God is love, and he bears witness that the essence of human nature is love. And one can conceive of, and can one conceive of, can one imagine anything more divine than love, and anything more human than love? For this reason, all avatars, including all prophets and all imams, and all Buddhas, including all sages, all initiates, and all bodhisattvas, were, are, and will be only degrees and aspects of the divine revelation and the human awakening realised in Jesus Christ. Avatars are therefore periodic incarnations of the divine. They incarnate periodically with the view to re-establishing the law, just like prophets, who arise to the same end, and they are each time doors and ways, sons of God and sons of man, who are one with their Father in heaven,